Hey guys, what's up? I hope that your preparations for the upcoming RBI Grade B exam as well as the SEBI exam are going really well. So, welcome to today's lecture for ESI, that is Economics and Social Issues series. And today we're going to discuss the topic of SECC, that is the Socio-Economic Caste Census 2011. And this, just like the previous lecture we did, which was for Census 2011, the SECC is also a very crucial topic for RBI, NABARD, and SEBI exams, that is all regulatory body exams, as well as for any exam where economics is a part of the syllabus in general. This is because Census and the SECC, both of them together, are a part of their very basic syllabus, and this stays static for at least 10 years or so. So it is something like this that they don't directly resort to putting questions from Census or SECC in your exam, but as soon as they start falling short of questions, the Census and SECC are the first things that they resort to, or the first things that they look into. Okay, so these are the filler materials that always tend to fill up all those gaps in the exams wherever they're falling short of questions, and that is why these are very important for you, because you have to do them no matter you are going for RBI or NABARD or SEBI exams. You have to do them, and at the same time, once you are done with these topics of Census and SECC, they tend to stay static for a long time. Now, when we were doing Census, I told you that Census is going to change next year, because 2021 is the year when the new census will be launched for the next decade. But SECC is also going to be launched in 2011. But the thing is that last SECC, which was held in 2011, its report was released in 2015. So, similar to that, you can't expect the next SECC report to come in the next 3 to 4 years, which means that no matter which exam you're giving, be it this year, next year, or even a couple of years after that, this SECC will stay constant. So, if you do it well in a proper manner, if you prepare it with notes right now, then you won't be in a problematic situation when your exam comes. Okay, so we'll try to finish this SECC topic today itself in this video, and we'll try to do it in such a manner that we don't tend to falter in any kind of question that gets asked in the upcoming exams. Alright, guys. So before beginning, again, as usual, as I ask in every other video that I make, guys, please do like and share this video, because we are putting in a lot of effort for you guys to leverage your time in the upcoming RBI, NABARD, and SEBI exams. And because we want you to leverage your time so that you can crack the exam in the most optimal number of attempts, so for that we have to put in a lot of effort to shrink those things, to crunch those things to the very basic things that will actually be asked in the exam. Now, these reports of Census and SECC, they are really big, but we try to give you only those facts from which questions will be asked in the exam, and if you just go through that, the entire chapter will be completed in an hour or two. So we have to put in a lot of effort for that. We work day and night, and I mean, we work really hard. So when you just like or share this video, it gives us a lot of motivation to keep doing this hard work. So if you just want to appreciate us, and if you want us to continue doing this hard work for you, then please like and share this video. And of course, to get notified whenever our new videos come, please subscribe to the channel, because I know that all of the videos that we are uploading are very important for your upcoming exams, and they will actually help you to save a lot of time and increase your marks at the same time. Okay, guys, so then let's begin with the chapter of SECC. So first of all, let's talk about the contents over here. Initially, I'll begin with some basic questions that are important in this chapter, and let's see how many of those you can answer. These questions also include some of the questions that have been asked in the previous year's exams of RBI Grade B Phase 2 ESI syllabus. Okay. Post that, we'll then move towards the basics of the SECC 2011. Then we'll do the objectives, then the important statistics, and finally, after doing all the entire chapter, we'll then move towards the answers for the questions that I asked in the beginning of this chapter. And trust me, you'll be able to answer all of them, and you'll feel much more confident towards the end of this chapter. Okay, guys, and as usual, I brought 3 bonus questions in this chapter for you, and all of those 3 questions are from the recent current affairs, which are very important for you guys. These are questions that are highly likely to be asked in any upcoming exam, be it RBI or NABARD or SEBI. All right, so guys, let's then move ahead. But before moving, these 3 questions will be scattered throughout the video. and I will hope that you, if you know the answer, then well and good, and if you don't, then at least you will research for that topic. And I want you guys to put all of those answers down in the comment section below. Okay, so let's see how many of you can answer these questions. So moving ahead then, first, the questions that I was talking about in the beginning, these are the first two questions over here. These are from RBI Grade B Phase 2 exam. The first one is from 2019, that is last year itself, and the second one is from 2017. So no question was asked from SECC in 2018, but as you can see, 2019 and 17, one question each was asked. This one was, I believe, for 1 mark, and this one was, I believe, for 2 marks. So questions are definitely being asked alternate year, or maybe every year also they can ask. And one question or two questions, it can be anything. It can be a 1 marker, it can be a 2 marker, it can even be 2 questions of 2 marks each. So you need to be prepared. Okay, so here's a list of 7 questions. I'll give you some time to just go through them, and let's see how many of these you can answer, and just calculate whatever your score is out of this. So just pause the video over here, go through these questions, take not more than 30 seconds per question. That is like 3.5 minutes for all of these 7 questions. Just do them, and then let's see how much you can score. Okay guys, okay, so I hope that you've gone through all of these 7 questions, and as usual, if you were able to answer more than 5 questions, that is 6 or 7 questions correctly, then you are at a very good situation, at a very good place right now for this chapter of SECC. Then you can just like watch this video at 2x, or I mean just watch this video fast, basically as fast as you can, and just go through those things which you still did not know. And for all of those people who were able to solve between 4 or 5 questions, you know the chapter, but you are having a lot of problems or confusions right now, so you need to watch this video carefully. And for those people who were able to answer less than 4 questions, be it 1 or 2 or 3, or be it even 0, then you have to be very very attentive in this chapter. And no matter who you are, even if you have solved all the 7 questions, I would still recommend that if you are watching this video, then at least watch it with a pen and a paper, and try to note down all those statistics which are very difficult to remember just by looking at them once, so that you have a page or a small note for them. And this note you can go through just before the exam, maybe in 10 or 15 minutes, so that you can remember all of those things and feel confident in the exam. All right guys, so then let's move ahead and we'll begin the chapter now. So before that, here's our first bonus question, and this is a meme as well. So over here you can see that Nirmala Sitharaman says to PM, or the finance minister, basically she's saying to the prime minister on the GDP growth rate, that नीचे से check कर नीचे से. So just like Farhan said to Raju in the Three Idiots movie, नीचे से check कर, when the result was coming, it's something like that which is going on right now. कि GDP growth rates आ गया, नीचे से check करो नीचे से, ऊपर से नहीं मिलेगा. Because right now with the COVID scenario, it's become really bad where the economy is heading in this year at least, and the GDP growth rates have drastically fallen. They can't be seen anywhere in the top of the list. So नीचे से ही check करना पड़ेगा. There's no other option. Okay guys. So the question over here is that as per the NSO, or the National Statistics Organization, what was the GDP growth rate of India in the Q1, or the first quarter of 2020, that is from April to June, the first 3 months of the year 20, or the financial year 2020. Okay guys, so the question is, what is the GDP growth rate? And this was recently released by the NSO, or the National Statistics Organization. So I would just I would request you guys, if you know the answer, then just put it down in the comment section below. Okay guys, and if you do not know the answer, then please go and check it out, because this was released very very recently, I believe in the month of September, and it is very very important for the upcoming exams, because this is a government estimate of the GDP projections, and government estimates of GDP projections are very very important. Okay guys, so guys, if you know the answer, put it down as the A1 or the answer 1 in the comment section below. And now let's move ahead to the SECC. Okay, so now we'll do the basics of the SECC 2011, what it is, who conducts it, what are the bodies responsible for it, what are its components and everything. Alright, so first of all, the SECC stands for the Socio-Economic Caste Census. Okay, Socio-Economic Caste Census. It was conducted in 2011 and was published in 2015, just as I told you during the beginning of this lecture. Okay, so even though it was conducted in 2011, the process of publishing it took a lot of time. There was a lot of data that needed to be processed, and it was then published in 2015. But it is being conducted since 1934 in India. So the first SECC was actually conducted before independence. All right. Now, the interesting part over here is that SECC is actually conducted by the Ministry of Rural Development, which is the nodal ministry for it. So, if you remember, then for census, the nodal ministry was MOSPI, or the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, which will conduct the census through the NSO, or the National Statistics Organization, right? But for the SECC, the nodal ministry is not the MOSPI, it is the Ministry of Rural Development. That is a very unique characteristic over here. Then moving ahead, this SECC has three components, and all of these three components are then taken care of by three different ministries. So even though the Ministry of Rural Development is the overall nodal ministry for it, still the three components are conducted by three different ministries. So overall SECC is basically conducted by a coordination between three different ministries of India. Okay. And the first out of them is, of course, the Ministry of Rural Development. So the first component, which is census in rural areas, that is conducted by the Ministry of Rural Development, or the MORD. The second component then is the census in the urban areas. And for urban areas, obviously, the Ministry of Urban Affairs. So Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, or the MOHUA as we call it, that is what is responsible for the urban census. And then the third one is the caste component of it. So first of all, there was the socio-economic part, and now the caste part is being conducted separately as the third component, which is then conducted by the Ministry of Home Affairs. Okay, the Ministry of Home Affairs through the Registrar General and Census Commissioner of India. Okay, guys. So these are the three components which you need to remember, and the three ministries as well. And the nodal ministry also you should know. Moving ahead, just like the census, the SECC was also conducted across all the 640 districts of India. Okay. And if you remember, then in the previous lecture, I had also told you that the current number of districts in India is around 739. So if any more districts are not added by the next year, then there will be 749 districts across which the SECC and census for 2021 is going to be conducted. Alright guys, so this is approximately an increase of about 100 districts since the last census of 2011. Okay, and again there's one more fact, that the SECC 2011 was the first paperless census. Alright, so which was the first paperless census? SECC 2011. Okay guys, so let's move ahead then. Okay, so here's the second meme for this lecture, guys. This is basically the question that if the census is already being conducted, then why conduct the SECC, right? This is a very, very valid question. Why conduct SECC when census is already there? So this meme says that government, after conducting the census, it was like, अब अपन को नया टास्क मांगता है. Just like in Sacred Games, गायतोंडे भाई was like, अब अपन को नया भगवान मांगता है, या अब अपन को नया धर्म मांगता है. Now over here the government was like, अब अपन को नया टास्क मांगता है. So that was probably the reason why they started conducting the SECC, right? Well, that's for the meme, at least I would say. But in reality, the answer to this question is very different. I mean, nothing is being done just for the sake of एक और task मांगता है इसलिए कर लिया. No. If there is a census and still a SECC is being conducted, then there must be some solid reason behind that. So now we're going to discuss that why the SECC still came into being despite the census being conducted. Alright. So what are the objectives of SECC? First of all, it is to enable households to be ranked on the basis of socio-economic status so as to help the state governments in preparing the list of BPL families. Now this is the most important thing over here, that it helps in making a list of the BPL or the below poverty line families. Apart from that, it also provides an authentic information for caste-wise population enumeration and education status of various castes and sections of population. Okay, so these two things you should know directly. First of all, it helps in preparing the list of BPL families. Second, it helps in providing authentic information for caste wise population enumeration and the education status of various castes and sections of population. Okay, but now the basic difference between the population census and the SECC census is that the personal data which is given in the population census is confidential. The entire personal data that you give in the census is confidential. And why is it confidential? It is confidential as per the Census Act of of 1948. So this is the act under which the census is conducted, and this act explicitly mentions that the personal data which is collected through the population census is confidential and it cannot be used. So what do you mean by personal data over here? The personal data includes the caste wise data, that which caste or which religion the person belongs to, what is the economic status of that person and the family, and then what is the education status for them. All of these personal datas, they cannot be used by the census. They can only use general enumeration data for enumerating the number of people and everything. Okay guys, but the detailed education, detailed caste, uh, detailed data for the sections of population cannot be used. So for all personal data usage, the SECC is what came into being. Okay, so the all the personal information given in the SECC is actually open for use by the government departments. Okay, so the government departments can openly use it to grant or restrict benefit to households. And this households term is very, very important. This is also a big, big difference between SECC and census. I will talk about it later. But in general, SECC mostly talks about households rather than individuals. And the population census mostly talks about individuals rather than the entire families. Alright. So another point that I put down over here is that while the census is about individuals, the SECC is based on households, which gives a more accurate picture of the economic status of families or the BPL estimation. Okay, so just like I told you right now, that the SECC uses household data and the census uses individual data. So if you want to know why the SECC is using household data, the reason for that is that SECC is trying to enumerate the BPL families. And what happens when you are trying to calculate the below poverty line families, or you're trying to calculate the income as well as the expenditure of families? That is, first of all, something that I've discussed in a very, very detailed way in the lecture for poverty, the topic of poverty, the chapter of poverty. But that chapter is of course available in our the course that we have running on our website for RBI grade B exam. So if you want all of those detailed concepts, then you can of course visit our website, that is www.litmode.in, and over there you'll find the entire course and you will be able to go through that. But I'll give you a brief crux over here just so that you can uh, get a taste of that concept. And the concept is that when you're trying to enumerate the BPL families, what happens is that, let's say there's a family of four people: the father, the mother, and two children. Now let's say that the mother is a homemaker and the father is earning, and over here, out of the two children, one of them is doing a part-time job. So let's say that this person is earning 10,000 a month, and the child who's doing part time is earning probably 3,000 a month. So the family's total income becomes 13,000 a month. Now, if we were trying to calculate it in an individual sense, then we would say that the mother is not earning anything, but she has, let's say, an X expenditure, and then the younger child is not doing anything, but that child also has an expenditure, and this person has a different income and this person has a different income. But what's happening over here is, if we try to take every person's individual expenditure, it would be very different than the family's expenditure when we compare it to that. Why? Because if a person needs housing and food and clothes and let's say X number of other things. What will happen when they live as a family or as a unit of a household? Then all of these four people will have to spend only on a single house, right? Then for food, they will buy groceries together and they will have only a single kitchen that is running, right? And then they will also buy clothes together. They might get discount for that, or they might not get a discount. That's a different thing altogether. But even if you look at the housing and the food part, and then there will be X other things as well, these people will actually save a lot in that, right? So then the expenditure changes, and at the same time this 13,000 will actually be used for the cumulative expenditure for all of these four people, right? So the income of each person will also then change. That is why whenever we are trying to enumerate the below poverty line families, we never ever try to enumerate a single below poverty line person, because below poverty line is always a concept that works in a household way. So whenever, if a person is a BPL, that certificate that is given by the government for BPL will actually say that this entire family is below poverty line, because that is how it is calculated in a more refined way and in a more targeted way. Okay, so that is what SECC tries to do, and that is why SECC always enumerates households rather than families, because it is a socio-economic and caste census. All right, guys. So that's the basic concept over here. So let's move ahead then. Now the criteria is used in SECC. So SECC is basically using the SR Hashim committees, recommendations for inclusion and exclusion of households in the BPL category. Okay. So SR Hashim committee gave some recommendations, and according to these recommendations, there are three types of parameters on which the division for BPL or below poverty line category is done. All right. So the first type of parameters are the automatic exclusion category. So these parameters, you do not need to actually know the details of the parameters, that what parameters are included, but I'll just tell you that there are around 14 parameters. The parameters are something like this: that if the person owns his or her own car, or if the person is actually paying taxes, then that household totally gets excluded from the BPL category. Why? Because if you own a car, then of course you've spent at least 1 lakh or so, bare minimum 1 lakh rupees on a car, and if you can spend that, then you're definitely not a below poverty line. Similarly, if you're paying taxes, then your annual income is at least 5 lakh rupees. That is the bare minimum for income tax in India. And if you're paying that, and if you have an income of more than 5 lakh rupees per annum, then you're definitely not under the below poverty line category. Okay, so there are all 14 parameters like these two, and all of these, if you fall under any one of those parameters, then you get automatically excluded from the BPL category. Then there are second category of parameters which are called the automatic inclusion parameters. There are 5 such parameters, and these parameters, if you fall under any one of those, then you directly get included in the BPL category. Okay, and then if you do not fall under either the exclusion or the inclusion criterias, I mean, if you just somehow skipped all of these and you were not able to fall under any one of those, then there's a third type of criterias which is called the grading of deprivation, and there are 7 criterias under it. And in general, if you fall in, then beyond these criterias, you're actually first of all given a rating, or let's say marking out of this. And if you are rated between 4 to 12, or at least basically greater than 4, then you are actually a deprived person, and then you will also be included in the BPL category. Okay, so there are 3 types of criteria over here: automatic exclusion, automatic inclusion, and then if you do not fall under both these, then grading of deprivation. And this basically tells if a person, basically if a household falls under the BPL category or not. And this criteria was overall laid by the SR Hashim committee. Okay, moving ahead, the important statistics. So now we're done with the very basics of SECC, and now we'll try to do all the statistical parts over here. And this is the part where you need to actually enumerate all the facts very, very explicitly on the pen and paper that you are using. You should have also made notes from what I told you before this, but this is something that you have to make notes out of, because you will definitely forget it in a day or two after after having a look at this video. So instead of going through all of these again and again, you have to make notes. That is the smarter way to do it, because all of us are trying to leverage our time over here. Okay guys, so let's move ahead then. First of all, households. There are overall, according to the SECC, there are 24.4 crore households in India, and out of those 73.4% households, that is almost 18 crore households, are rural. Now do you remember what was the percentage of rural population in India as per the census? I hope you guys do remember it. If you do not, I'll give you the number over here. It was 68.8%. So 68.8% of the population was rural in India. But if you calculate in terms of households, then it increases even more. Then it becomes 73.4% of the households are rural in India. So if 73.4% are rural, then what is the urban percentage? It is roughly around 26.4%. And this enumerates to around 6.5 crore households in India which are urban. Okay guys, then moving ahead, out of these households, the rural households, basically almost 10.7 crore households are deprived. Okay, and overall if you calculate for entire India, then for India 49% of the households, that is a really high figure, 49% households are facing some kind of deprivation. Alright guys, then moving ahead, for the rural households, 56% rural households are actually landless. That is a very high number. They do not own any agricultural land. Then 90% of the rural households do not have a salaried job. This is an extremely high number, which means that 90% rural households actually are falling in places like the grey economy, where they either they do not have their jobs, or if they have them, then those are not formal sector jobs and they are actually falling in the grey economy. Okay, so 90% rural households do not have any salaried jobs. Then for the rural households, the main sources of income are: number one, 51.14%, almost 52% of the rural households fall under the manual casual labor or the MCL category. Okay, the manual casual labor category. This is the highest amount of households in the rural category. They fall under the MCL. Then the second highest is agriculture or cultivation. Around 30% households in the rural areas fall in this category. And then if you talk about landless plus MCL or the manual casual labor together, then 30% of the households are landless and they are doing manual casual labor in the rural areas. Now interestingly, you will see that most of the data over here is given for rural areas. Why? Because the SECC is conducted by the Ministry of Rural Development, and the major focus over here, the focus area over here, is always the rural areas as compared to urban areas or any other area. The rural areas will be the primary focus. Okay, so I hope that you've made notes out of all of these, and now I'll move ahead to the next slide. If you haven't, you just pause and make notes. Otherwise, I'll move to the next slide now. So next statistics is educational data. Now the illiterate households, the percentage of illiterate households in India is 35.7%. And by illiteracy I mean that just like we talked about literacy in census, the illiteracy criteria is the same over here as well. It is that any person who can read and write in at least any one language, be that any language in India, be it English or Hindi or any regional language, if a person can read and write in any one language, then the person is literate. So basically, almost more than 1/3 of the population in India cannot even read and write, and that is terrible, right? Then we'll start moving ahead towards the higher criteria of education now. So the next criteria over here is the households with at least one member who has completed secondary education, and this is only 9.6% of the households, which means more than 90% households do not have any member who has completed secondary education. Not even one person in their houses has completed secondary education. And then if you move towards higher secondary education, it gets even lower to 5.4%. That is it. Only 5.4% households have at least one higher secondary graduate. And then if you talk about graduates overall, graduate means a person who has completed any kind of college degree post the class 12th exams in India, or post the higher secondary education. Only 3.4% households have at least one graduate. Now this is where the terrible thing lies. I mean, we people in general, the average middle class of India, if you actually sit and think carefully, all of us have at least one, or in most cases more than one graduate in our households. And we don't even know any friend of ours or any distant relative or anyone who doesn't have a single graduate in their houses. Even if we know, there would be barely one or two houses, not more than 10% of all our acquaintances, less than 10% for sure, I would say, for all of our acquaintances are there who do not have any graduates. But can you imagine, almost 96.6% of India's population or households do not have a single graduate in their houses. That is the true India that we're talking about. So, what is the India that we are living in and we see around us? That is not the true India. The true India is something that we haven't even seen. It is something that we haven't even experienced. And when we say that we are very unprivileged, maybe we are from the general category, or we do not get you know reservations, or maybe if we say that we are not rich enough for what we wanted more money, we wanted something or the other, we are actually one of the most privileged classes in India, because we are all graduates giving our exams, and most of our families have more than one graduate. Most of us have parents who are graduates, or if not parents, maybe siblings, and then our relatives are graduates, our friends are graduates. We know so many graduate people. We haven't even seen the true India, because more than 96 out of 100, more than 9 out of 10 people are not even having a graduate in their houses. That is the true India. All right. So let's move ahead then, guys. This is a very big topic in itself. We can keep debating over it as much as we want, but we have to complete our syllabus. So we'll move ahead then. The highest number of graduate households are actually in Delhi. Delhi has almost 9.6, that is nearly 10% households which have graduates, because Delhi is again a metropolitan city and most people over there are working. So a lot of graduates, they migrate from other states and other cities to Delhi. So that is why Delhi has a large percentage of graduate households. Then moving towards the lowest literacy rate in rural areas, because again SECC talks mostly about rural areas. So the lowest literacy rate in rural areas is in Rajasthan. Okay guys, you need to also know this. Now, because SECC is the socio-economic caste census, so now we'll try and understand what the vulnerable sections, their populations, where their population stands in India. Okay, so for the vulnerable sections, first of all, let's talk about a community that is rarely talked about in India, but again, they are very vulnerable, and that is why they become important for your exam as well. And you should also know it in general. This will help you in a lot of places, including the interviews. So, first of all, in the vulnerable sections comes the transgenders. Now, the transgenders are only 0.1% of the total population of India. Okay, then comes the SCs, or the scheduled castes. They are almost 20%, 19.7%. Then the scheduled tribes, they are at 8.5% of the population. And then the OBCs are actually really high in number. They are even more than the general, so-called general category. The OBCs stand at 41.1% of the population of India. Okay guys, so these are the vulnerable sections. Now moving ahead, there's one more meme for you, that only 3.4% of Indian households have a graduate in their house. So Indians to college studies, they say बुलाती है मगर जाने का नहीं, right? बुलाती है मगर जाने का नहीं. That is what they say to college studies. Now this is even though we're trying to joke about it, but it's actually a very serious topic, because those people who do not get to be graduates, who do not get to go to colleges, they're actually not doing it by their own will, most of them are actually being somehow forced into it because of circumstances, because of issues like money problems, maybe other issues that they're going through which we can't even understand. So it's actually a very serious topic, but just to make things lighter, this is what I put over here. And interestingly, I also put it over here because of this person. This person's name is Rahat Indori. He was a very, very prominent Urdu poet of India, and he recently passed away a few months back. And just to pay tribute to him, I put it over here so that we can just remember him. So बुलाती है मगर जाने का नहीं. Now moving ahead, this is the second question that I put in this series, and the question is that what is India's rank in the recently released HCI? Okay, HCI is the Human Capital Index. Okay, so HCI or the Human Capital Index is released by the World Bank. It's a very important index. And the question over here is that what is India's rank in the recently released HCI? This was released in September 2020. And you have to put it as the A2 or the answer 2 below if you know the answer. And put it in the comment section below. And let's see how many of you can answer this. You have to tell India's rank in HCI. And by the way, before moving ahead, you don't just have to do the rank for HCI. You have to do all parameters for it as well, like which country stood first, what were the parameters for ranking the countries. You have to do all of those things in detail because this is an important topic for your exam. That is why I've talked about it over here. So whenever I talk about any question in the bonus current affairs series, it's actually a very important topic overall. So even if you know the answer, you have to still go through the entire HCI thing, that what HCI is and what are the details of HCI. Because if a question gets asked in the RBI exam, then it will not be a single question. Indices always get asked in the passage part, and passages mean at least 3, sometimes even 4, or maybe even 5 questions, which means anywhere between 6 to 10 marks. So when they ask so much, they definitely will tend to go into all the details of it. Okay, so you have to study it accordingly. So now moving ahead, the important statistics, some more things that we still have to discuss. The first over here is that 75% of the rural households have the main earning member of the family, the main earning member making less than 5,000 per month. So the family overall might be earning higher than 5,000, but the main earning member or the member who's earning the highest amount in the family is not even earning 5,000 per month, which is an extremely low level of income. 75% of the rural households fall under this category. This is again very unfortunate. And then another uh, data that we have over here is that only 8% of the households have the main earning family member who is making more than 10,000 a month. And 10,000 is again a very, very basic figure. If someone is not even making 10,000 a month, the family is actually cutting short on a lot of expenses and they're actually going through a lot of troubles. Only 8% of the households are making more than this. Okay, guys. So now coming on to the BPL data, this is again a very, very important thing because BPL is something that the SECC is always trying to focus upon in a major way. So for BPL, in rural areas, almost 31% of the population, the households fall under BPL category. And for the urban areas, 26.4% population falls under the BPL category. Okay, guys. And when we take the combined or the cumulative average, this will come out to be somewhere around 29.5%. Somewhere around this. Okay, somewhere around 29.5% households in overall India fall under the BPL category. Okay, so moving ahead then. Now, now see, the thing is that SECC is a very, very small topic. It's not very big in terms of the number of questions that are asked, and I've given you all the basic concepts from which questions have been asked in the, let's say, the last 5 years. I've seen the last 4 or 5 years exams, and nothing has been asked outside what I gave you today. So if they ask beyond this, then no one will be able to answer. I will guarantee you that less than 0.1% will be able to answer, and that does not affect your competition. So if you want to leverage your time and not study anything which will take a lot of time, and rather go through your current affairs and other things that require a lot of time, then this is more than enough for you. And it was a very small thing, and I hope you will be able to remember it in your exam. And if you still wish to go beyond this, then I would say that you'll have to go through the entire SECC document, which will take a lot of time. But guys, trust me, we have done more than enough for the SECC. That is all that can be asked. All right. So now you can even go through the questions that I gave you in the beginning. The first one was, as per the SECC 2011, what is the percentage of landless households deriving a major part of their income from manual casual labor? Manual casual labor. Okay, and this is landless. So they are talking about landless plus MCL category. And the answer for this is 30%. We did this in the slides that we did before. It is here. You can see a landless plus MCL is 30%. Okay. We've done all of these. If you can't remember, you can just go back in the video. You'll find all of these. Okay. The next one is, what is the percentage of rural households in India, which was asked in 2017 RBI, and the answer to this was 73.4%, as I told you before. And for urban households, it is 26.6%. Okay, guys. Then the third question that I put was, which ministry is responsible for conducting the SECC? The answer is the MORD, or the Ministry of Rural Development. Which was the first paperless census in India? It was 2011 census, or the SECC basically. Then what percentage of households in India has at least one graduate? It is only 3.4% of the households in India. All right. Then moving on to the sixth question, what is the percentage of transgenders population in India? It is only 0.1%. And which state has the lowest rural literacy rate? The answer is Rajasthan. Okay, guys. So these are all the answers for the questions that we did in the beginning. And now moving ahead, I have the last bonus question for you. And I hope that you've seen the first two questions and you've noted down their answers in the comments. So now the last question for this series, the bonus question, is that who was the head, in fact, of the expert committee on resolution framework for COVID-19 related stress, formed by the RBI. So the Reserve Bank of India had actually formed a committee, an expert committee, for the resolution framework for COVID-19 related stress. Now I was saying resolution of because this committee is also known as the Committee for the Resolution of COVID-19 stressed assets. Okay. So this is also known as, in common terminology, it is also known as the Committee for the Resolution of COVID-19 stressed assets. And in official terminology, it was called the Expert Committee on Resolution Framework for the COVID-19 related stress. So overall, the stress that we are talking about over here is actually of the stressed assets. Basically things like the NPAs. Okay. So because the NPAs have been rising with the COVID-19 related economic stress, so the Reserve Bank of India had formed a committee for the resolution of this stress. You have to tell who was the head of this committee. And if you know the answer, put it down in the comment section below as the A2 or the answer 2. Alright guys, and I'll give you a small bonus with this. That is, this committee also gave a lot of recommendations very recently. Okay, so it also gave a lot of recommendations, and these recommendations have been accepted by the Reserve Bank of India. So if you study this committee, then you also have to study the recommendations that were given by it. You should go into the details of that because they are important in terms of the RBI and SEBI and also NABARD exam for the ESI syllabus. Okay, so that is a bonus that I'm telling you over here. If you go through the committee, also go through its recommendations. Alright guys, so after that, because we were talking about the COVID-19, I have Binod coming in over here. So hashtag Binod. दुनिया कोरोना की वैक्सीन ढूंढ रही है और भारत के युवा विनोद को ढूंढ रहे हैं. राइट, भारत के युवा विनोद को ढूंढने में लगे हुए हैं. हमारे आजकल द वायरल थिंग्स, उनकी हालत ये चल रही है. सो people are commenting Binod everywhere there, and this has been going on since a long time now. Binod, जहाँ देखो वहाँ Binod लिख देते हैं. So I mean, please guys, don't put Binod as a comment down in with this video. And if you guys do put it, then next in the next video I'll actually feature that comment. Okay, so be careful. I'll feature it in one of my memes then. So, but still, because Binod has been doing all the rounds, so with the COVID-19 stress coming over here, I just thought of mentioning Binod. So that's what the Yuva in India is doing these days. So, alright, guys, I think that is pretty much it for this chapter, for this video. So, thank you so much for watching. If you guys have had any doubts or any problems in this chapter, in whatever I taught today, then you can, of course, put all of your doubts in the comment section below, and I'll try to answer all of them. Alright, guys. And if there is still any doubt which does not get resolved post that, then you know what you have to do. I'll still repeat. You have to just drop a mail at hi@litmode.in. That's our email ID. It's hi@litmode.in. You can just drop an email over here and we will definitely get back to you. If you have any other doubts regarding any courses that you want to purchase, you can also email us on this ID for that as well. Okay. And if you want to have a look at all the detailed courses that we have running, then you can go at www.litmode.in and you'll find our RBI course, which is a great course. We have done everything to optimize your time. We've made this course in such a way that you do not have to worry about anything that will come or will not come in the exam. We've done all that homework for you, and we've made this course in such a way that you can, in the shortest time possible, you can crack the RBI exam. Alright, guys. So I hope you liked the video, and if you did, if you like the memes, if you like the way that we are approaching things, if you like the way that we are making things interesting for you, but at the same time we're bringing so much knowledge, so much data, that you will not miss a single mark in the exam that was attainable, then if you like all of that approach that we're following, then for all our effort, please do like and share this video. I will be really grateful for that, because we get a lot of motivation from the likes and shares that you give us, and we really appreciate you for all the love that you're giving us. So thank you so much for that, and please do like and share this video. And for more future updates and for more future videos that come up, you can please subscribe to our channel. Okay, guys. So thank you so much for watching and have a nice day.